Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us. My name is Anna Marie Wood. I am Senior Assistant Director of Admission here at Scripps College. I'm also a graduate of Scripps. I graduated in 2013. If you've attended a few of our other Saturday webinar sessions, you might have seen my face already. So thanks again for coming back. This session is for you to learn more about the academic opportunities at Scripps College and across the Claremont Colleges. So in this session, we'll explore the benefits of a liberal arts education, a women's college experience, cross-registration across the Claremont Colleges, and overall just what makes Scripps special. This session will be led by Dean of the Faculty, Amy Marcus-Newhall, and Vice President for Enrollment, Victoria Romero.
Thank you, Anna. And I also just want to thank Anna for all the work she's done on these Saturdays programming. She's the person in the admission office who's been responsible, and I'm very grateful and happy to have everybody here this morning, evening, afternoon, as Anna said, wherever you might be. I'm Victoria Romero. I'm the Vice President for Enrollment, and in my role, I oversee admission and financial aid. And I have the great pleasure today of just asking some questions of our Dean of Faculty, Amy Marcus-Newhall, and she's also the Vice President for Academic Affairs and a good friend. And so I think the goal is, as Anna said, is just talk a little bit about the role of the Dean of Faculty, the liberal arts, women's colleges, the consortium, and certainly give people an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have. So I'm going to get started. I will say I've been at Scripps for since 2011, so for many years. But I think Amy's been with the Scripps a little bit longer, and so I'll let her talk a little bit about that. But my first question for you, Amy, is what is the role of the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of Faculty, and what do you oversee in your responsibilities? Because I remember when I went to college, I had no idea what a Dean of Faculty was or what a Dean of Students was, and so can you just kind of share with the group kind of your role as the dean?
Sure. So first of all, welcome to all of you. I so wish, as I am sure all of you do, that we were sitting on our Scripps campus engaging together, but so be it, we are not. So this is the best that we can do at this time. We are excited to chat with you, and I really look forward to getting to see you in person at some future time. So I have actually been the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the Faculty for 11 years. Prior to that, I was in the psychology department for 18 years. So I've been at Scripps for quite a while. I should also say that during those 18 years, I served for 6 years as the Associate Dean of Faculty. And for one of my years as being the Dean of Faculty, I actually stepped in as the interim president while we searched for our current fabulous president, Lara Tedens. So I do really feel like I have a great sense of Scripps. And as you can tell, I have been here for a number of years because I love the place. So I am definitely biased in favor of this. I would go nowhere else. It is the right home for me. So what is it that a vice president for academic affairs does? So my primary responsibilities are the curriculum, the pedagogy, faculty initiatives, academic departments, and the faculty themselves. And so broadly, the vice president for academic affairs is the umbrella and the responsibility to oversee the curricular nature, the academic component of the college. In addition to that, a number of offices report to me. So I'll just briefly tell you about them. That is Denison Library. And I heard if you've attended some of these sessions, you might have attended one with Jennifer Martina Wormser, who is wonderful as our librarian. Off-campus study, I heard Neva Barker as our director of off-campus study has met with you. The Williamson Gallery, the post-bac medical program, the registrar, assessment and institutional research, and offices that combine and connect to the academic program. I also think it's important just to briefly tell you that I serve on various committees that also fall in this umbrella nature of the academic realm. So for example, I sit on the senior staff with Victoria and my colleagues and the president to help think about broadly all of the issues for Scripps College. I sit on the faculty executive committee, which is the policy body of the faculty with 8 elected faculty members and myself as the dean. Also, I sit on the Appointments, Promotion, and Tenure Committee, where we review our faculty and determine promotions and tenure and contract renewals. And then I also lastly sit on what's called the Academic Deans Committee. And the Academic Deans Committee is a committee across the Claremont Colleges where each of the deans of faculty join on a semi-monthly basis to discuss academic, curricular, policy issues across the consortium. So broadly, you can tell what I do is the academics, whether that be curriculum, faculty initiatives, is the main priority. And in light of that, I also work with students, but not nearly as much as I want to, but about academic concerns or academic projects that they would like to pursue. So that's broadly it, Victoria.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. We are going to talk about the consortium, but we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But first, and today there's conversations in the media about the value of a liberal arts education. And I'd like for you to kind of share with the group how you think it prepares graduates for life, personally and professionally following graduation.
Yes, well, I could think of nothing better I would like to answer. I have to inform you that, first of all, I attended a liberal arts college about 30 minutes away from the consortium. My older daughter attended a liberal arts college on the East Coast, and I currently have twins who are both attending a liberal arts college as first-year students. So I guess that, well, and I didn't even mention that my husband and I both went to the same liberal arts college. So you might imagine that personally and professionally, I am committed to this type of education. And the question is, why? And I am so passionate about this. What I believe a liberal arts college does is it teaches students how to think, which is very different than teaching students facts and data and information. Do we do that at Scripps? Do we do that at liberal arts? Absolutely. But it's a higher level thinking that comes out of a liberal arts education. I think of the brain as a muscle, and just like one needs to do push-ups or sit-ups, one regularly needs to work out the brain. And the way to work the brain is to think and analyze and conceptualize. And so that is what the liberal arts provides. Why is this so important? Well, let me give you this as an example. If what we had was a world that never changed, then if you learned a set of facts and you could just keep using those because nothing changed around you, you would be fine. But wonderfully, not unfortunately, but wonderfully, our world does evolve. And we are smack dab in the middle of one of those evolutions right now, a pandemic that has changed so much. So what does a liberal arts do? A liberal arts education allows people to learn how to think and to become lifelong learners. So what it does is it thinks about how to analyze, critique, contemplate all of those facts. It doesn't say take it in and accept it. It says take it in and then question it. Question, is this right? How could I think about it differently? How could I contextualize it differently? And that's what keeps the brain moving and going as that muscle, but it's also what allows us to be flexible and adjust to the ever-evolving world that we are in. So what else does a liberal arts college provide? So for almost all liberal arts colleges, there are general education requirements. And I've heard that many of you who have been attending these Saturday sessions have heard about these, but we at Scripps have a range of general education requirements. Because when you become a lifelong learner, what you do is not simply focus on the 1 or 2 areas that interest you, if you have that, but broadly, how do multiple disciplines intersperse to connect to make that area that you're interested even that much more interesting? And also what a liberal arts college does is focuses on breadth and depth simultaneously. You want a range like the general education's requirements, where you're taking a class in the social sciences, the natural sciences, the arts, and the letters. But you also want to delve deep into topics, and you do that within classes, within minors, and within majors. The liberal arts also focuses on small colleges taught by professors who are there to collaborate with students, to work together, to think through issues, to challenge worldviews, to disagree and agree, but to force that ever-changing mindset of how do I be creative? What is stuck that I might want to think differently about? And how do I argue for my point of view when I know that there are rights and wrongs about it? So what we do is we focus on reading and writing and analyzing and presenting. It is not one way of learning, it is multiple modalities of learning. The pedagogical approach of engagement and active learning is essential to a liberal arts college. It is not about passive sitting in a class and being a recipient of knowledge. It is being an active participant in one's own learning. Right? I can think many of you in high school or for your parents in college or in high school where you got an assignment where the assignment was do this and it gave you exactly the question to answer and you did it. What's much more complicated and difficult is when the assignment is think about what you want to analyze, what you want to address, and then do it. And that's hard. And I can tell you that from a personal point of view, as my son was just getting one of those assignments and he said, but how do I start? And that's what you start to do. And he's a first year. And by the end of it, he said, that was fun. So what you do in a liberal arts is you actually push your own boundaries to the next level of learning and educating and thinking. So why is all this important? This is important for a number of reasons. First of all, the liberal arts college is about the teacher-scholar model for the faculty. So they are involved in great scholarship, but the priority of teacher to scholar is really a critical notion. There are scholar teachers and there are teacher scholars. And at liberal arts colleges, Scripps in particular, what we have for our faculty are teacher scholars. They come to Scripps to be a teacher. They want to teach, they engage with teaching, and they are better teachers because of their scholarship. They are producing manuscripts, they are publishing books, but it is that combination that makes them so essential and great in the classroom. Now, all of this is paired with co-curricular, and you'll hear more about that. I hear even next week about residential life, but there's clubs and lectures and living and learning communities, and the liberal arts college is about a holistic approach to your education. It doesn't happen only within the classroom. It happens outside of the classroom through Dean of Students, but also outside of the classroom through the faculty. We have a wonderful opportunity where faculty and students can apply for funding to do co-curricular activities. They can go to a movie together that relates to a class. They can watch a television show together as they have pizza and discuss how it relates to what they're thinking about. So the boundaries of a liberal arts college between the academic and the co-curricular ideally is seamless, where you're getting educated in both of those arenas. Now, how does that impact post-graduation? Well, students who go to liberal arts colleges are trained across the board. They become lifelong learners and they are smart and witty and critical. Now, when you get a job, you still start at the entry level most of the time because you're not getting a degree in X, Y, or Z, you're getting a liberal arts education with a major. But what's most interesting, and from what I hear over and over and over again from our students, is that they start at the entry level possibly, but their promotions happen amazingly quickly. Why is that? Because students from liberal arts college and Scripps College, what they do is they don't just do a task. They think about the task. They suggest alternative ways of doing that task. They question it. What might be a better way or what should be done differently? Not in a way that is seen as, negative to their employers, but actually beneficial and helpful. And what employers see so quickly is the ability of leadership among students with liberal arts degrees. So clearly what students from this liberal arts background, they don't do what is just asked of them. They question it. They provide suggestions on how to improve. They push boundaries to the next level of ideas, new processes, new initiatives. They are respected, admired, and then, as I said, promoted. So a quick quote. I always love this quote. It's from a book by Robert Harris on the book's title, On the Purpose of a Liberal Education. And what he said was, quote, "A cultivated mind enjoys itself and life, and knowledge makes you smarter, and smarter makes you happier." In this day and age, in this world we live in, both smarter and happier, enjoying life for one's society and oneself are critical dimensions. And I truly believe that a liberal arts college contributes directly to this success.
Thank you, Amy. We are a member of the Claremont Colleges. And so the 5 campuses are literally across the street from each other. We're all in an area of about 1 square mile. And there's really not another consortium like the Claremont Colleges in the United States. We were planned, and so it was very intentional. So how do students benefit from the consortium from an academic standpoint or any other way? And can you also maybe share what are some of the challenges of being part of a consortium?
Yes, absolutely. And as I said, I went to a nearby liberal arts college that I will forever find near and dear to my heart. And yet, since becoming a faculty member at Scripps College, I have just realized that what each of the undergraduate colleges has is everything that I had at my wonderful alma mater and so much more. So I haven't said, but I am a social psychologist by training. And it's always hard for me to disentangle anything I'm thinking about from psychology, but many of you probably know the Gestalt quote, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." And that is how I think about and perceive the consortium. What we get as the consortium is all of the benefits of a small college and all of the resources of a mid-sized university. So what does that mean? It means increased number of faculty who students have access to. It means increased numbers of majors. So those that are on our campus and those that are off campus, intercollegiate majors and shared majors. Number of minors that are available, the number of classes. If Scripps doesn't offer a class, you might be able to find it at one of the other colleges and take that. The research opportunities. We have the majority of our Scripps students working with Scripps faculty, but when there's an opportunity at one of the other colleges, our students can go and work with faculty at the other colleges. It really is, in my view, the best of both worlds. Now, as Victoria said, that is not to say that it works 100% of the time. And what I mean to say by that is each of the colleges prioritizes its own students in its classes and in its programs. So for example, if I want to go take a class at CMC that has a high demand, and CMC students do get top priority, I might not get into that class, but I will get into the classes at Scripps on a much more regular basis than possibly at the other colleges. We also see this in terms of majors. As I said, we have something like 70 majors or something like that. But what you'll find is that you can major off campus as long as Scripps doesn't have the major. So let me be clear on this. Economics. If Scripps, a student wants to major in economics, Scripps has an economics major. So you cannot choose to major at Pitzer in economics because we have the major. You can absolutely take courses in economics across the consortium. But for example, Scripps does not have sociology as a major. So Pitzer and Pomona do. And I have direct contact with those students. Being a social psychologist, I serve as an advisor to many of our students who decide to major in sociology at Pitzer or Pomona. To be clear, and I often get this question, does that mean I graduate from where? So you're still a Scripps College student. You take all of our general education requirements. You do our required senior thesis, but you have an off-campus major. Now, one might wonder about really demand-driven majors, topics, and some people might be thinking about CS, computer science. That is one of the hot topics in higher education. It is, the demand is over the roof across colleges and universities in the United States. Scripps College does not offer a major in computer science. Harvey Mudd and Pomona do, But it is very, very difficult to major off campus in computer science right now because those two colleges are having trouble supporting the demand of their own students. So Scripps College is working very closely with Harvey Mudd to make sure there's a couple of spaces. But more importantly, we're thinking about how do we address computer science and data science at Scripps College in a Scripps College way. So we now have a data science minor. We also offer multiple computer science courses that are linked to humanities, that are linked to majors that we already have. And the idea here is to give the skill set that computer science courses offer, that many jobs are requiring at this point, but to do it as connected to our mission, to our values. And so far, the receptivity that we have gotten from our students has been wonderfully positive. We actually have hired a Fletcher Jones Foundation scholar in computation, and that person will rotate every 6 years. We'll bring in a new faculty member in a different major or a different discipline to rotate and provide different students and experiences connected to different fields. This current person is in media studies, and again, we have found it wonderfully successful. So in essence, I will simply conclude that I really do believe the consortium allows for the best of both worlds. You get a small, intimate college experience. You have all the benefits of a single college, but the advantages of about 5,000 students, a mid-sized university where you get more of everything, as I said earlier. And those opportunities are not just in the classroom, they are in co-curricular activities, they're in lectures that occur across the consortium. And really the biggest problem is that you will not have enough time to engage in all of the activities that are available to you.
Thank you, Amy. I often say to students, if you're going to major in psychology, you have not just the classes at Scripps, but this wide breadth. And so it really able to cover areas that a school of 1,200 or 1,000 or 1,500 may not be able to cover. So you really do have some depth and breadth when you're selecting classes. So certainly the Claremont Colleges are one part of what makes Scripps distinct as a college academically and in terms of co-curricular life. Being a women's college certainly makes us distinct. But as a liberal arts college, academically, what do you think makes Scripps distinct?
Yeah, this is something I actually spend quite a bit of time thinking about, right? When you're talking about what is unique about Scripps, and I'm very clear about what that is. So in this day and age, I believe Scripps is uniquely special. And the reason I think this is because what I have come to term the academic bookends. So let me briefly fill you in on that. As you have probably heard if you've attended any of these sessions or read about at Scripps, we at Scripps have a 3-semester interdisciplinary humanities core program that is required of all of our students. And I know that some of you attended a session with Dr. Winston O, who is our core director. But if you weren't on that session, let me just really briefly explain that in the first semester is Core 1. The topic of it changes every 3 years. For incoming students, it would be the 3rd year of what is called Histories of the Present, Truth. And it really will focus on truth. This course is taught by 14, 15, 16 faculty representing the 4 divisions at Scripps College: the arts, the letters, the natural sciences, and the social sciences. And what it does is it brings together the entire first year class in one setting for lectures, and then special discussion groups that are much smaller where you get to really get to the bones and thinking about the material. And the idea here is a shared experience. When we changed to this close to 20 years ago, what we realized is there was no shared experience of our Scripps student. And for good or bad, this is now a shared experience. And when you see students eating in the Motley Cafe or in our Hampton dining room, you will often hear them talking about core, sharing ideas of what they thought about Foucault or the last reading, sometimes grumbling about how many assignments. But it really is something that not just unifies the first year class, but connects them to the second year, the third year, the fourth year because of this shared experience of Core 1. Then in the spring of your first year, you take a Core 2, which are either team taught or singly taught interdisciplinary classes that link back to the idea of truth and really try to get you to delve deeper into a topic. And they range from death to Hollywood to humanities to dance and art and music. And students get to select the Core 2 that they want to pursue. And then in the fall of their second year, they take a Core 3, again, individually taught on a range of topics. And what we see Core 3 as is a preliminary step into our required senior thesis and the idea of research. So Core 3 has an assignment in every class to pursue an independent project. And what's unique about this is that it's not about what you're going to major in. It's an independent project in the topic of your Core 3. So it's the process of developing an idea, figuring out how to study it, then doing the work and presenting it, that then will parallel what you will then do as you finish your major several years later. So when you finish your 3-semester core sequence, you really have learned how to think critically, challenge unexamined assumptions, not afraid to change one's mind. You've learned how to agree and disagree, and you really have spent a lot of time learning how to articulate your views and how to incorporate those both in writing and in oral presentations. The interdisciplinarity of the core is essential as well, because it then bleeds into and influences the kinds of majors that students select. So by the end of one's sophomore year, a student must select a major. And what's interesting about Scripps, and what I have heard from so many Scripps students and faculty, is one of the reasons we believe we have double majors and lots of majors and minors is because of the interdisciplinary focus of the core. It sets the foundation for wanting to think outside of the box, for connecting disciplines together. So then during the sophomore year, up until senior year, you're delving into the depth of the major or majors. And what makes the end of this academic bookend, the second end, is what is known as our required senior thesis. And as you look at colleges and universities across the United States, what you'll find is many will have a senior thesis project as an honors project. So that is, a group of students does this. We at Scripps believe that every student should do a senior thesis project. It is the culmination of your experience. So it is required of every student for every major. And we celebrate this event in what is known as Capstone Day, where students present their research. And those who, so right, you're a senior, you're presenting your research, and first years and sophomores and juniors are coming to listen to you as a model of what they would be doing in the following year. And again, this project is an independent scholarship project where you develop your ideas, you collect your data or review all the information, you write it up, and you do present it. So that academic bookends really does make us uniquely different than many, many schools. We all have wonderful classes. We all have fabulous faculty, but there's something that colors our education by this 3-semester interdisciplinary core program, the major and the required senior thesis, that makes for a unique experience.
Thank you, Amy. We have some questions coming in on the Q&A, so I think I'm going to go there next, if that's okay.
Sure.
The first one is actually a really good question. Can Scripps students pursue research only at Scripps, or can they do research at the other colleges?
So absolutely, they can do research at the other colleges. Now, like I spoke about earlier, many of the schools will prioritize their own students. So I don't want to just say, yes, you get to do it, but I will give you a great, so yes, the answer is yes. We have students doing scholarship at Pitzer, CMC, Pomona, Harvey Mudd. I'll give you a couple of examples. At CMC, excuse me, they have an autism center. We don't have that. And that faculty member who runs the Autism Center has worked with a large number of Scripps students who go and volunteer in the autism center and who happen to do that maybe in their first year and their second year. And by the time they get to developing their thesis, if they are a psychology major, have been able to use those students or that topic as their thesis project. And in fact, the CMC faculty member has served as one of the 2 senior thesis readers for that project. We have faculty at Pomona, for example, who do health psychology, who complement what we do at Scripps, because we don't have anybody who does health psychology, but we have psych and law. And so what students say is, oh, I'd really like to get involved in the research project on health psychology. And when there's space available, absolutely. And in fact, I will tell you that one of the reasons students come to the Claremont Colleges is because of the Claremont Colleges. And one of the reasons faculty take jobs at the Claremont Colleges is because of the Claremont Colleges. And they want to work with students from the different colleges. So it is absolutely an option and possible.
Great, thank you. For many students, they may not know what they want to major in. For other students, they might have an idea. And for some, they are certain what they want to major in. Can you talk a little bit about the process? How do students declare, when do students declare a major? Or what if you declared a major and then you changed your mind?
Yeah,
And
no,
kind of that
these are-
process.
yeah, these are great questions. And I haven't told you how much I miss being in the classroom and working with students. I love being the dean of faculty. I am passionate about Scripps, and so I really do love it. But one of the things that I had to give up was more interaction with students. And one of the things I really loved was advising. So some information. I am ecstatic when students enter Scripps College and don't know what they want to major in, because what it allows them to do is take a range of intro classes and decide what is it that they are passionate about. Now, if you already know what you're passionate about, that's fabulous. But more often than not, if you don't know, I don't want you to feel like I must be the only one who doesn't know what I want to major in, because the majority of the students don't. Or even if you do, you take another course and you think, oh my gosh, a whole new world has opened up to me that I never even knew was available. So you have to declare a major by the end of your sophomore year. And that is so that you can plan out all the courses that you would need to take to satisfy the major by the time you graduate. It is also really important that that happens because many of our students, up to 60% of our students, study away off campus. And you want to be able to plan for that off-campus study while still ensuring that you get all the courses you need for the major. Can you switch a major? Absolutely. So for example, if you all of a sudden declare at the end of your sophomore year and decide in your junior year that you want to switch the major and that you can satisfy the requirements, then you do a change of major form. What we're doing is trying to provide the support that you will ensure your graduation, that you will get into all of the classes, and so that you can build many majors are hierarchical. You can't just take them all just when you want to. And so you need to take, for example, in sciences, intros before you take the upper levels. In psychology, you need to take stats and methods before other classes. So part of that decision by the sophomore year is to make sure that you can plan accordingly. But there is no problem if you don't know what you want to major in. You have the entire first year, and the only 2 requirements that you have to take are Core 1 and Core 2. That means that you take, on average, 4 classes a semester. That gives you 6 classes to think about intro-level classes that you might want to pursue for a major, and or some general education requirements that you might want to take. And those don't have to be mutually exclusive. So you might take a general education requirement that you say, oh, I was taking English because it satisfied my letters. And you take that class and you say, oh my goodness, this is what I want to pursue now. So as you're taking general education requirements, you may also be searching for your major as well.
Great, thank you, Amy. So as a reminder, please feel free to send questions in the Q&A. But you've been doing that along, so we're going to move on to another question. And there's 2 questions, but I think they're linked. About foreign language. Can you talk a little bit about the foreign language department, but also what about foreign language and study abroad? What are the requirements for that?
Yeah, sure. So one of our general education requirements is 3 semesters of a foreign language. Now, like math, this is what we call a competency requirement. And what that means is that you can take a test to pass out of that requirement if you have reached a level of mastery in high school of 3 semesters. So you come into Scripps, you take an exam, and let's imagine that you pass out of the first semester. Then you would still take the second and the third semester. Let's say you pass out of 2 semesters, you would still take the third semester. Or you may find that you have passed out of your language requirement because you have excelled in language in high school. Many of the students who do that still take upper division language classes, and we have a very large number of our students who minor in French or Spanish or German or Italian, because by the time you take a couple of classes and potentially study abroad, you have mostly reached the minor. So what about our requirements for studying away? For many programs where it is in a country where that language is spoken, France, Germany, you have to have the equivalent of 4 semesters. And this is actually not determined by Scripps. This is determined by the programs. So for each program a student would apply to study abroad, there are different requirements that are provided by that program. And if you didn't attend the session with Neva Barker, she is phenomenal. She is our director of off-campus study. And she meets with students right away when they come to campus in the fall semester of their first year. She informs them about the various programs, what would need to be taken if you wanted to study in France or Germany or Spain or Italy or Australia. We don't run any of our own off-campus programs, but we have pre-approved programs that we work with. And students can petition for their own programs if they find a program that better fits their curricular needs or is in a country where we don't have a pre-approved program. So the languages, I should also say, we have what's called the Modern Language Resource Center. And that is run by one of our language faculty, and it has student tutors, it has movies that are shown in various languages, it has magazines and newspapers of various languages, and it is a shared program with CMC and Pitzer and Harvey Mudd. So it is not just the 4 languages that we teach at Scripps. And so let me clarify this. At Scripps, we teach German, French, Spanish, and Italian. We are the only college across the consortium that teaches Italian. We do it for the consortium. German is taught at Scripps and Pomona. French and Spanish are taught at multiple of the colleges. But you might be saying, but wait a minute, I want to take Chinese. Why do you not offer it? Well, just like we're the only college that offers Italian, Pomona offers the Asian languages. So they offer Chinese and Japanese. And then CMC offers other languages. And so what we do is we try to complement across the consortium the range of languages that could be taken. So I hope that answers the question, but people can follow up if it doesn't quite get at everything what they were interested in.
Great. Thank you, Amy. One student found your mention of psychology and law super interesting. And I think this is a good example of how students take 2 areas that might seem very different and are connected. And so the student wants you to expand upon that. And I also will just say, when I think about this, I also sometimes think about the student who was going to major in chemistry and took an art class and then found art conservation, which we have. And I think those types of things are not uncommon at Scripps when students begin to find this link, which, as you said, often begins in core. But this student would like to know a little bit more about what that connection between psychology and law.
Yeah, and I think, Victoria, the way you framed the question, and I will definitely get to psych and law, but it does really exemplify what I was talking about earlier of the impact of this interdisciplinary humanities program, because it gets people thinking across the boundaries of disciplines. So psychology and law, we have a fabulous faculty member, Dr. Jennifer Grosscup, who has a PhD and a law degree. And so what she, when she was in graduate school, she wanted to study what is it about the law and psychology that interact. And so We have a lot of students who are really interested in this. She actually, you would find this very interesting. She has a mock jury setup, and it actually is a full building, and you go into a classroom. I mean, she teaches this in psych and law, and you role play and you go through the literature and the data from psychology and you apply it to the legal system. What are the biases related to jury decision making? How do judges get influenced? I mean, one of the greatest examples I will just give you as a psychologist, and it'll get you all thinking, is there's a great study, and here is what it says. Right now, stop thinking about your big right toe. Okay, how many of you are actually feeling a sensation right now in that big right toe? And the reason is because we've brought it to your attention. We've made it salient. Now you might say, why is Amy bringing this up right now? Okay, now imagine you're on a jury and what the judge says to you is, what that lawyer just asked was inappropriate. Ignore that question. Wipe it from your mind. Well, what's your big right toe doing right now? Have you been able to wipe that from your mind? And so there's lots of psychology research about what does it mean to wipe something from your mind? And when a judge says that, does it reduce its impact or does it enhance its impact? So those are the kinds of questions and so many more that do psychology and law. And as Victoria said, we actually have a psychology major. We have a legal studies major. We don't have a psychology and law major. You major in psychology and you emphasize the law within that, because that's what would get you, for example, if you wanted to go to graduate school. It gives you the overarching breadth and depth at the same time. But we have lots of students who might major in psychology and minor in legal studies, or major in legal studies and minor in psychology to pair those. And because Victoria brought up art conservation, I do want to just one more example of this. What she said is so true. We have one of the only, we think, majors in art conservation across the United States. It is a phenomenal program. And what it does is it integrates chemistry and art history in a unique way where students are learning the curricular academic theoretical approaches and also getting hands-on about restoration. And if you have been to Scripps College, you will know that we have all kinds of wonderful artistic events and you know, we have the Macbeth mural and we have all these things, and our students get to work on those. They actually get to restore and work to see, why is it turning yellow there? And if you add this chemical mixture, how do you get it to maintain in its structure longer? So this is something that is actually quite unique across all of our majors. They are the traditional majors, but they also step out of the box and push you even further into other disciplines and thinking about how they relate as well.
Thank you, Amy. There are some additional questions on kind of majoring and minoring. And I remember when I was in college, this was always kind of complicated to me. And then you pull in the consortium. So maybe we can go back there and talk a little bit briefly about, you know, when you major at another campus, how does that actually work?
Yep.
And when you major and minor in something, what is the difference?
Great.
And can you minor at one of the other colleges?
Great. Okay. So let's start with the majoring, and just first, what is a major? At Scripps, the minimum requirements for a major are 8 courses plus the required senior thesis. Now, I want to say that is the minimum. Many of our majors will have more requirements than that, but you know, 1 or 2 more, not a lot more. So any major has to have 8 courses plus the required senior thesis. And a minor is, I can't even remember, it's 5 or 6 courses, and that's determined by the department. It does not have a final culminating project, so it's just an array of classes. And we have many, many students who 1 major, 2 double major, have 2 majors, and or have a major and a minor or multiple minors. Let me quickly go to the double major, because we have a distinction at Scripps College, and that is, if you major in 2 disciplines, you can do it by integrating a thesis because you have a required senior thesis, or you can do it by doing 2 separate senior theses. I am not a huge advocate of the 2 required senior theses. It is a lot of work. And when I think about the senior thesis, I really do think of that of the equivalent of a master's level project. So during your senior year, doing 2 of those is complicated, but we have many students who integrate in the most unique ways 2 majors, whether it be a foreign language and psychology, or whether it be math and a science, or whether it be art history and letters and English. And what they do is they have a reader in one of the majors and a reader in another area, and they integrate both disciplines and create a senior thesis that has both of those. In terms of minors, yes, you can minor off campus if the college has minors. Not all of the other colleges have a formal minor, so it is not as available as a formal major, but absolutely, if the other college has a minor that we do not have and is open for registration, that is, it's not by demand, just not available, then our students can off campus in a minor as well.
So just as for my own clarification, and maybe my students might be asking this. So if I was going to major in sociology, as you mentioned earlier at Pitzer,
Yep.
I would then say to our registrar, I'm majoring in sociology. My sociology advisor would be at Pitzer.
Yes, but you would, yes,
And you would have an advisor on the Scripps
exactly.
campus.
You would have an academic advisor at Scripps. And so, as I had said, sociology is one that I know the most about because as a social psychologist, I'm most closely aligned with sociology, but I'm also not a sociologist. So I don't want to be the one telling somebody what to do. So you have a Pitzer academic advisor and a Scripps, a Pitzer major advisor and a Scripps academic advisor. And I will say, for example, that I mentioned earlier, but for every senior thesis, you need 2 readers, 2 faculty readers. And so I have often served as a reader on a sociology thesis. So for example, a student would get a Pitzer sociology faculty member, and then myself as a Scripps faculty member. And that person becomes the primary reader and I become the secondary reader.
So one of the important parts in terms of majors and advising is just advising in general. Certainly students are going to work with faculty members as their advisors through this process in terms of meeting those general education requirements you talked about, but also thinking about majors and minors and how to do things to do a major at another campus. Certainly there's a lot of guidance and support in making those decisions.
Yes, absolutely. And then there's so much to cover, but every student upon arriving at Scripps will get assigned 2 things, and I will talk more about one, but you will get a faculty academic advisor and a primary contact dean through the student affairs. So I know the most about the academic advisors, but every student gets an academic advisor who's a faculty member. You meet with that person regularly and as often as you want. The faculty member will contact you, but you also can contact that faculty member and go to office hours at any time. And where a lot of that engagement really comes into play each year is at the time of registration for the next round of classes. So if you became a Scripps student, before you even register for the fall semester, you would have a full session with your academic advisor. They would go through the kinds of classes you want to think about for your fall of your first year. You would know that you would be in core, but then you have 3 other courses that you get to select. And you would do that in consultation with an academic advisor. And what I always think is important to say about an academic advisor is their role is to provide you advice, and your role is to contemplate it and decide if you want to follow it. It isn't a demand. If an advisor says you should take math and you think, I want to wait and take math later, then you say, I want to wait and take math later, and here's why. And then the advisor says, great, that sounds wonderful too. So the word advice is what they are there to do. They have an expertise, they have experience, and their job is to help you think through what best accomplishes your goals as a Scripps student.
Thank you. This might be a quick answer. The question is, as a first-year student at Scripps, can I take Mandarin at Pomona, and do any of the 5 colleges offer Latin?
Yes. So yes, you can take Mandarin at Pomona, again, in our shared language programming. So absolutely. And you would take a language placement exam and then take that. And actually, Scripps and Pomona have a shared classics department or a joint classics department. We have 2 faculty members and we teach Latin. So we have 2 faculty members. One teaches Greek and one teaches Latin, and they are both available and our students regularly take them. Yes.
Thank you. So this is a good question, and I think that it's also a question the dean of students could answer. But you've worked with students as advisors inside the classroom, and so this student is asking: the consortium seems intimidating, not as the size of the campus, but as a whole new world of different people from different schools.
Mhm.
What advice would you give to a student who feels this way?
Well, I think I would feel exactly the same way. So first of all, I would simply say you are not going to be unusual in how you feel. I think starting college anywhere feels intimidating. And so what I would say is the beauty of the consortium is that you will be a Scripps student. And so your first home away from home will be the Scripps community, and you will get to know that the people in your residence hall. You'll have events that will bring you together with peer mentors and resident advisors. And so as you gain your footing within the Scripps community, you have cohorts of friends and people that you will expand out beyond the Scripps community. It's not as if you have to like, oh, I got to go figure out at Pomona all by myself. You'll be able to have this real, what I call community support. And I think that is one of the other, I mean, when I talk about what makes Scripps unique, I focused on the academic component. But if I were speaking from a broader sense, community and support and engagement is really what Scripps is all about. And I think part of that is due to being a women's college. Part of that is due to being a smaller college with 1,000+ students. But what you will do is you will build out, you will expand beyond Scripps to the other colleges in the time and framework that works best for you. And you will do that with others from Scripps that you will already have come to trust and admire. And so it will not seem daunting in the same way that it does right now.
Thank you. I mean, I also remind new students that you're arriving and other students are arriving not knowing anybody. And there is suddenly just this sense of community that happens because of that. And, the sooner you and a friend decide to go over to Harvey Mudd and have lunch, you realize it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to do that, but it's hard initially. It's hard to kind of leave that. I mean, literally you're crossing the street, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult. And so
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of orientation to make sure students know we want you to go to the other campuses.
Yes, and I do think the other thing that makes it so easy is this: you're crossing the street. There are other consortiums in the nation, but are not one block away. And so you're going to meet people, even if you don't intend to, because you're going to have students from the other colleges in your classes, and you're not even going to know which college that they're from. And then you're going to go to a lecture at Scripps, and you're going to be sitting next to somebody, and you're going to start talking to them, and you're going to realize they're from C or Pomona. They're not even from Scripps. So it's the seamless boundaries that does make it much easier than anticipated of somehow the colleges are really like all these different things. The Claremont Colleges is the umbrella that really houses all of you.
I think Anna's telling me we have time for one or two more questions. One is, how many AP courses transfer to Scripps?
Oh my goodness, I never remember the answer to this. So I will get to Anna the actual answer from the registrar. What I know is that they don't count for like requirements, but you get a certain number of credits. And so let me get the exact answer from the registrar to Anna, and she can send that out to anybody who is on this call who would like to know.
Anna, you might want to chime in here because you've answered this question. I think it's 4. It scores of 3, 4, or 5, up to 4 classes. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's up to 4 if you get a 4 or 5. Yeah, exactly.
4 or 5. Yes, 4 or 5.
And I can find a link on the registrar's website and type it into the chat right now.
Okay. All right.
Okay, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Our registrar is phenomenal and knows the answers to all of those things. And so I don't have to remember all those details.
Thank you, Anna. So we're winding up, and I don't know if there's any final questions there, Anna, but I have one last question, if there aren't any from the students. But, Amy, you started this by saying that you have twins who are first-year students in college. And I don't know if you wouldn't mind just maybe sharing a piece of advice to prospective students, and there might be some families on this webinar, just any piece of advice you have, not just as the Dean of Faculty, but as but just as someone who's gone through this process recently.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I get a minute or two to do this. I know that my job here in presenting is as the Dean of Faculty, but as I said, I am living what you are all living, and I lived it last year in a very chaotic way with the pandemic and everything else, just as you are. So what I would say, and I really have grown to feel very strongly about two things. The choice of your college will be your home away from home. It will not be your new home. And I use this often because with our older daughter, who went to college on the East Coast, I remember the first time I dropped her off and they said, "This is your new home." And my heart just kind of died. And I said, wait a minute, my daughter has a home. This is not her home. And so I have forever changed when I talk to parents and families. What your child is looking for and going to experience for the next 4 years is their home away from home. But it is a home, and it is 4 years, and it is 4 important years of life. And so these decisions are really, they're stressful and they're wonderful. And so my other really strong piece of advice is to trust your student's gut. Let them feel what is the right place for them to be. As much as I would love to convince all of you, come to Scripps, because for me, it is the perfect place. It is wonderful and ideal and perfect. There's lots of problems everywhere, but it is really the right place for me, which is why I have spent my entire career here. What I hear from students is there's something that feels like this is right for me, and my stomach, my heart, my brain is telling me this. That's what you want to listen to. You want to hear yourself. You don't want to do it because somebody says this is the best school, or somebody says this is a higher ranked school, or somebody says this is a less expensive school. All those things matter to your families. But ultimately, what you want to do is pick the school that is right for you. Pick it because it has the right kinds of students. Pick it because it has the right kind of faculty. Pick it because it has the right kind of academic curriculum and co-curricular experience. But listen to yourselves and really think about, what is my heart telling me? And you cannot go wrong.
Well, I think that's almost exactly noon California time, and a perfect place to end. Amy, thank you.
Can I just say, absolutely. Can I just say that if there are any follow-up questions from any of you, if it's just a new question and you go to bed in 3 nights and you say, oh, I really wish I would have asked, please don't hesitate to send me an email. You can find my email on the Scripps website. It's amarcus@scrippscollege.edu, which you would never be able to remember. But if you simply go to Vice President of Academic Affairs and Dean of Faculty, you will find my email. I would always, always, always be more than happy to engage by email, by Zoom, or by phone. And Anna Marie has just posted it. But I mean that with all sincerity. Like I say, I have been through this 3 times. I find the process both stressful and phenomenal. But if I could be of help in any way about Scripps, I would be more than happy to do so.
And Anna's also, oh, I'm sorry. And Anna's also put in the admission, and if you have questions for me, you can email admission or VP for enrollment at Scripps College. And we are thankful, so thankful that people spent the last hour with us. Please stay in touch. Anna, any final housekeeping announcements?
No, that's it. Thank you both so much. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Victoria. I loved all the questions that came in, and I was listening to you both as I was answering the questions, and this was just a really good session. So thank you so much. Students and families, I hope that this was helpful, and you have email addresses if you want to follow up with us. Please do so, and we look forward to seeing what more questions you have.
And we wish you all the best of luck in this college search process, and we'd love and look forward to possibly seeing you as Scripps students this upcoming fall.